Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We're starting fast. We got Meghan, we got Big E, and we got the reindeer coming to you live. It's going to be a fun one, I think, today. First of all, Meghan, back on the podcast. It's been a long week for you.
Did you remember Meghan was a real childhood nickname?
I did, yes.
That's awesome.
I forget a lot of things, but I remember
No, that's awesome. It's so good to be back. I've missed talking hockey with you guys. I can't wait. I'm not going to do that again. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, you get to talk it all out now. We got lots of things to talk about. Obviously, the Avs home opener, but a bunch of practice stuff too. Let's just start with maybe the negative, I guess. Maybe you already knew this. I don't know. Pavel Francouz doesn't seem like the diagnosis is great.
No, and that was sort of the behind the scenes sense that we got. Oh. So it didn't necessarily come as a surprise to hear that born from optional practice today. I was not there, so that is the reporting of other media that was there. I think Ryan Bolding might have asked the question. And so still a lot of uncertainty in that answer. It was a bit waffly, but not the kind that instills any confidence that a return is something you could realistically expect for Pavel Francouz.
For what it's worth, he is around the team at least.
Yes. So there was another question among media when he wasn't called out, when they announced the team and Landeskog and McDermott came down the tunnel to wave. Why not Pavel Francouz? He was in the arena, said hi to media. So I'm not sure if it was just an oversight in announcing the team for the year, but he was around at least and seemed to be in good spirits.
Maybe he missed the assignment. You know what I mean?
Maybe he was flying directly in and the timing, it just didn't pan out.
He has been seen.
He has been spotted. Proof of life, Pavel Francouz.
Hey, when you're getting older, you're a goalie and the hips and, the stomach, whatever the area is, it is what it is, right? Yeah. I mean, at some point, you hope that, he has a chance to come back at some point, right? And then, but your body tells you, once you're that age, your body tells you what's up. If it wants to or it doesn't want to, especially with that position and butterfly and all that stuff.
So let me ask you this then. With the clear uncertainty around Francouz's return, the Avs goalie depth is essentially organized now. They did get Minor back to the ECHL. You have Holman and then down with the Eagles. What is that expectation going forward? Is it, hey, we'll call up Annunen if there's a backup role needed? Is Prosvetov just the backup now? Where do you think they're at?
That's where I've landed with it for right now, at least. I don't doubt that as the year progresses, maybe they are waiting to see if there's another option that they're more comfortable with down the line. But in the meantime, I think Justus Annunen made them have to make a difficult decision. And because he had such a good preseason in camp. And so I think because of the waiver flexibility, that would be the case then if there was a night that Georgiev wanted a rest.
Plan ahead a little bit.
Just have Annunen come up. They carried 3 goaltenders on that road trip, so I'm convinced it's something that they're willing to do at this point. Yep. So that would be my guess. I think Annunen has earned that right, at least.
And then he gets those games this weekend, and then, you know what I mean? And
I could see him starting both for the Eagles. I think they want to give him now 100%. More consistent starts. It used to be split, like with Jonas Johansson, but I think they're going to let Justus really ride as the true number 1 in Loveland.
Well, the first couple games of the year for the Eagles didn't inspire confidence in other goaltenders. So
it was an interesting thing, too. I'm sure we could do a quick Eagles thing later in the show, too, because it's their home opener tonight. Very exciting. And I don't think the result that they had on the road is anything to panic about. Even the way Schneekloth talked about it sounded so experimental and without any sort of panic. There was a very calm intention in what he was doing in those first 2 games. So I'm excited for tonight because I think that they've narrowed down their roster and it's competitive still at both forward and D.
Oh, those D spots do not come free right now.
No, there's good defenders sitting out of games right now. And even in their forward group, I think they're still trying to figure out chemistry fits, but there are even some forwards that we haven't seen play a game yet. So a lot of things to still look forward to with the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting how that shapes out this year. Obviously, Avs hoping to use it less than they did last year as far as call-ups are concerned, but you're already starting to have conversations of, hey, Did they give Peter Holland a contract? What happens next? Is someone like Jean-Luc Foudy going to get healthy and back into the lineup?
Right.
Like,
Kiviranta should join the group now. That's a guy they did like in camp. Just they just didn't have enough contracts that they could freely hand out.
yep, it's going to be tight down there this year, to say the least. We'll put it that way. Eric, do you play in the AHL?
Yes, I loved it. Yep. No, my first year pro, played the whole year down there.
That sounds like a guy trying to convince himself he liked bus rides.
No, actually, it's planes. I played in the back then. It was in the Maritimes division. So
so that you didn't have too much ridiculous travel.
no,
back then,
well, I was in Newfoundland. So the only way to get there is by ferry. So I mean, we didn't take the bus, so we flew everywhere.
Oh, nice.
It was awesome because you had Halifax, PEI, Cape Breton, Moncton, Fredericton, and then us. It was an awesome division because you had to fly to Halifax, for every flight, and they had the nicest, freshest lobster right there at the gate. You could buy that, and we'd bring them home, live lobsters. It was awesome.
That's amazing.
And it was so fun. And I loved the American League. I thought it was awesome. And nobody brought their cars there.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I mean, it's your first year pro. So a lot of guys didn't have cars, but quick story on that. We would, this guy would sell us every year, and it lasted for a dozen years. Chevy Chevettes. He would sell them to us for $1,000, and then two of us would buy them together, and then he would buy it back for $500 at the end of the year. And it was the craziest thing. And they were just those Chevy Chevettes in the snow. I don't know if you've ever driven a Chevy.
No,
It doesn't work
I
in the
don't know what
snow.
it looks like.
And it snows over there. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It
bet I have
snows
seen
over
it,
there.
yeah.
But you would be at the red light, like on a Saturday morning, whatever, on a day off, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, boom, somebody would run into you. You're like, what the hell's going on? You look behind it and be like, I don't know, one of your D's on your team waving at you, like, hey.
Real life
So we
bumper
roller
cars.
derby around town with Chevettes. It was so fun. I love the American League. It was the greatest. It was fun.
That's incredible.
No, I was there, yeah. And then my next year, I was there maybe half the year. So played like a year and a half. I think it's so crucial.
This is
development
excellent.
wise. Yeah,
What
here you
a
go, Chevy
Chevette
Chevettes.
is.
Yes, it was so fun.
Like a Lada almost.
Yeah, but they're not good in the snow.
I believe it.
I believe that just by looking at it.
It was so fun. It was fun. But the American
was
League, you
fun.
get you're so tight. Guys are usually younger, and you spend a lot of time at delayed flights at the airports. And like I said, it's different. It's fun. I think it's important for the development of a lot of guys. And I'm a big American AHL guy. So unless you're, I call that. What do you call them? Silver spoons. You know what I mean? Like first rounders, and you know what I mean. They get, I think you need to get down there and learn to be a pro, learn to be a teammate.
Even most first rounders.
No, I know. I'm just saying,
unless you're like top 5 pick or something.
So we used to give it to guys like Denmarsh back then that he was a silver spooner. You know what I mean? Like,
Even Mikko
some of us.
Rantanen.
Even Mikko went
Mikko went
That's
down.
from
Yeah, I think
American
it's
Hockey
huge. I
League.
think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely awesome to go in the American League and play and learn. Learning, as we saw last night for some guys for the Blackhawks, it's learning on the go in the NHL is tough. It's a tough league. It's not forgiven.
Well, especially if the physical maturity isn't there yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
You kind of want a stage where it is a little bit like Greg Cronin described it as a lab down there.
It
There's
is.
just a lot of experimenting that's going on
That's it.
in the name of development, and it's
Yep.
helpful to have a little less pressure on that stage to work out the mistakes, make those mistakes.
So we got scientist schneeks down there.
Scientist
Yeah. They're not
Schneeklock,
as magnified,
he's
right?
concocting an experiment in his laboratory.
Less
No.
magnified your mistakes. You know what I mean? So it's easy. It's just easier.
It's expected
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
that was sort of Schneekloff's attitude is I'm less worried about what the Griffins are doing this weekend actually, and I'm just focused on the Eagles.
Yep.
And it's almost like we don't even, I'm sure they pre-scouted it. I'm sure they watched film at Jared Bednar, but it was more so he's just focused on what his group's doing. And I think that's excellent.
Well, I know you talked to one of the successful AHL experiments of recent times in Logan O'Connor. What's his secret sauce to being a penalty kill magician?
Just being the most magnificent teammate and professional possible. No,
Is he a good guy, right?
let me tell you about Logan O'Connor.
Megan thinks he's a good guy.
Just one of the nicest guys in the
There
room.
you go, sorry.
Product of DU character. But truly, like this is Andrew Cogliano's words of Logan O'Connor. That is the guy that you win with. And it comes down to the hard work that he puts in. Even Jared Bednar talking about it last night. Because there was sort of this cheeky acknowledgement that a lot of Logan O'Connor's scoring comes at the beginning of the year. and then sometimes tapers off as the year goes on. But he's obviously so much more than that. And I think that each year he takes so much ownership of everything he does in his individual game. But seeing him talking to Ivan about the penalty kill, bringing him over to the whiteboard and showing him the Avs penalty kill, giving him hands-on teaching, and then hearing Bednar talk about the success of the PK has been Andrew Cogliano and Logan O'Connor taking ownership of it and sort of leading by example how it's supposed to be executed. Because even in recent seasons, last year, the start of it, Logan O'Connor's a returning player and the penalty kill is struggling a bit. And I think the difference is him maturing as a player. He was already mature. He's just taking more ownership of how his voice can lead in that room. Yep. And in this case, it's leading through what he is providing to the team, especially. Like, he's not going to be the scoring threat come game 82. Actually, I don't want to limit him. Maybe he will be. But he is going to be the penalty kill specialist by game 82. Yeah. He's going to continue to be that. And it's his consistency that allows him to have the success that he does and his work ethic. And it's contagious and necessary if you want to fit in Colorado.
Yep.
He knows his role, and he does it perfectly. And I remember talking to him a few years back and in a different setting, not even at the rink. And I walked away from them like, you know what? He knows what he wants. I think he knows what he is. And I think he'll deliver it. And he's been delivering that. And I think knowing what you are is the most important thing. You know what I mean? There's no identity crisis with him. He knows exactly what he is. Yeah. He knows exactly what he brings. And then whenever he, steps out of it, I think his game suffers a little bit. You know what I mean? I think last year he was put in situations where that's not what he is. Yeah. You know what I mean? And again, I go back to my line again. I'll just say it again so Tiff can be happy about it. But, when a rusher tries to become when a crusher tries to become a rusher, he often becomes an usher, right? And he gets it. He gets it. And that's his style of play. And that's what he needs to do. And I thought it was awesome what he did to Cogliano. And I'm glad you think he's a nice guy, because he is,
Yeah, great dude. Really good at scoring shorthanded goals so far this year. So
I love that too, because it's a willingness to be more than maybe is necessary at 5-on-5 when the moment calls for it. And he really steps up in those moments, even though throughout regular gameplay that might not be the guy that he is. He seizes the opportunity when it comes, and I can really appreciate that. And I think he's figuring out that just simply wristing it is the move to do.
No backhand.
No backhand.
Fun fact here, LOC has more shorthanded goals than 9 teams in the NHL have power play goals right now. So
I heard you say that on your...
Yeah, just wanted to reiterate that one because that's a...
No, but when you said that, I was
ridiculous
like, wow, that's
stat.
cool.
Yeah. Very much early season weirdness with statistics there. But still, LOC taking care of his business right there. Continuing down kind of this Avalanche locker room, you had the chance to be in it on opening night. You were there for morning skate as well. They're 4-0. Does it feel like they're 4-0 when you're talking to them?
No, particularly looking at morning skate, because in the post game there were definitely happy players in the room, and I caught wind of a different game win song, but I had no idea what it was, so I feel like I need to Shazam it and get there quick, because they cut the music when media comes, so you don't get a lot of opportunity. So it sounded different even in its tone, though. It wasn't a hype song. It was a little bit slower, but still happy. So anyways, I don't know if that
Boys are focused.
Captures the mood a little bit, because that was
it's
the mood.
It's the party in USA?
It should be.
That would be such a good win song.
That's a great win song.
At morning skate, though, it was very businesslike. Yeah. I loved Nathan McKinnon's take that it's just game 4, and I don't think that is to dunk on the home crowd enjoying it as the home opener, because it has significance to everyone in Ball Arena. But to the team, it's just another game to win and to do their best and to improve, because there was a dissatisfaction from, I talked to LOC, Cogs, and McKinnon and McCarr, and there was a dissatisfaction that there were things to improve on from the 3-0 road trip coming into the home opener. And so I think that captures the attitude around the room. It's very serious, and Tatar actually post-game kind of acknowledged, like, everybody here takes things very seriously, but it is also fun playing hockey the way that Colorado likes to play hockey.
Yeah.
There's still fun being had, but it is in being really good at what they do is how they have fun.
You know what's fun? Winning.
Exactly.
You can't be the most miserable team if you're like a first place team, right? You gotta have some fun.
You can't hate yourself if you're there.
It goes hand in hand. It's important. I think atmosphere is huge, and I think people bring different atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like, look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Got Ryan Reeves for one. Yeah, toughness, but it's also he's a persona. He's something, and he's like a character in the locker room. And I think that the Avs do have a good mix. You know what I mean? They got the guys that are a little more serious, and they got a little more funny, and you know what I mean? And I think it's important to have a little bit of mix and
Yeah, for sure.
keep it in perspective.
Yep. You need a little bit of crazy McKinnon ultra focus, and you need a little bit of Mikko upbeat chilling.
Hey, you know?
It takes both to build a hockey team.
That's right.
It also takes Snarfs to build one of the best sandwiches around. You can go over to a couple of different Snarf locations here in Denver. I know Megan's a big fan going to
love
DU,
Snarfs.
so she's had the inside line on Snarfs long before they were even a sponsor. Eric regularly brings us Snarfs now because
Love Snarfs.
he's a Snarfs fan. You can get over there. Even if you like burgers, there's a couple of different Snarfs burger joints too now. So go check them out if you haven't had the opportunity. They have fresh ingredients every single day. Super awesome. Can't beat it, honestly. Their bread might be the best part of their sandwiches, which they bake themselves. So it's all elite tier sandwich making stuff. What do you like deli meat? What do you call sandwich materials? Because it's more than just meat.
No, you're right. They have a lot of toppings.
Yeah,
Is the best way to put
toppings
it.
is probably
That
the
are
right word,
broader
yeah.
than just lettuce, tomato, cheese.
Yep.
Tiff likes all toppings, but no mustard.
That's fair.
Not a mustard fan.
No mustard.
Do you like vinegar?
Yeah.
We're fighting.
Yeah.
Mustard's
I like
the
honey
best.
mustard. I like
Honey mustard's
I like
good,
a
yeah.
Let me guess.
Dijon.
Mustard's not a topping. You know.
No, no,
whatever.
no, not at all. I'm not gonna go that far.
There you go.
You're too used to talking to me about food.
AJ, mustard's not a topping. You know?
Either way, make sure you hit up Snarfs today. Grab yourself a sandwich and support Snarf's Gift a Meal program on the Snarfs app, which you can download today. And when you use code DNVR with the Snarfs app, you can get a buy one, get one 7-inch sandwich. Also brought to you by the folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook. You can go over there and use code DNVR when you sign up, and you will get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5 or more on the NFL. It seems like $3 to bet against the Broncos right now. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. It's, I'm not a big football fan, but sometimes you just got to do what the obvious bet is when it comes to DraftKings Sportsbook. Get over there, have some little fun with it. They are also giving every single customer an advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October. So there's tons of different bets you can get in on with those bonus bets. Be sure to sign up with the code DNVR when you do to get those $200 in bonus bets. And then you can go bet on whatever you want. You want to bet on the Avs? Go off. Do it. You want to bet on not the Avs? I don't know. Who else would you bet on in the NHL? Because there's 4 undefeated teams still. Vegas is still undefeated. Boston is still undefeated.
Islanders, right?
Are they? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're like
I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't bet on the Islanders just to spite AJ,
1-1.
though.
They only had a couple games played though.
Either way, get over to DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles, LA. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. I want to have a little bit of a conversation about this here because we've seen, yes, the Avs are 4-0. Great. Awesome. They've done that while not being afraid to tinker with their lineup a little bit, particularly on the forward side. Megan, we were talking a little bit about it before the show. Jonathan Drouin, Tomas Tatar kind of switched spots during the game last night. It worked out certainly for Tatar with McKinnon. Druin also had a goal taken away. Well, it was Wood's goal, but Druin set up Wood for a goal that was taken away. Is there a level of stability there? Do you think this is something the Avs want to continue doing going forward, like with Tatar on the top line? Or do you expect to see more tinkering against Carolina tomorrow night and going forward?
Well, I think we'll see more tinkering. I don't know if it'll happen as soon as Carolina, because I think he'll want a bigger sample size of Tatar on the top line before he starts shuffling things a bit more. But he is, Bednar that is, in search of something kind of specific. Obviously, production is sort of at the forefront of this.
Yep.
But in looking at the strengths of the entirety of the forward group, and Bednar has talked a lot about wanting balance and wanting to spread the wealth in how the forward group comes together. And I think this year's look altogether, in looking at the new additions especially, has wanted them to be a little bit stronger. And I look at the depth of the 2022 Cup run and what made some of the third and fourth line so difficult to play against is what has been brought about in players like Artturi Lehkonen and Val Nichushkin, and it's one reason why they're so valuable to the top six and why I think he'd like for them to play away from another if possible, first and foremost to promote one of those two, because they're very good players. They're bought into how Colorado wants to play, and they lead by example. And then looking at how this has sort of been spread throughout the lineup, I think he wants that type of willingness to retrieve pucks, be hard in puck battles, because I think so much of how they want their identity to look is going to play out inches from the boards. They want the Miles Wood who is going to punish guys in the dangerous area just to retrieve pucks. And I think that's going to sustain better possession in the offensive zone. That's going to allow for the playmaking to happen because they've established themselves. And that's then where the skill upside of a Tatar can come into play on a specific line. A Drouin, that's where their strengths are going to be as players, but it has to be spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
And as it stands, Tatar's skill upside has been playing middle top six roles. That's sort of been true of even where he's coming from last year.
Yep.
So he sort of earned this look. And there was a happiness in Tatar post game that he finally got this chance. So I don't want to make excuses for Drouin specifically, but I don't even view it so much as a demotion. But let's see if we can get these guys to play to their strengths by refreshing things just a little bit. And I think that's a strength of the forward group on the whole, that I think tinkering will happen throughout the season because there's a lot of similarities in how he wants each line to play. Obviously, the output's going to look a little different, like the top line's definitely going to score more than the fourth line. Yeah. But these demands and what he's looking for on the whole within each line are going to be kind of similar. I look at it like a pyramid. And so for that reason, I think the Blendnar is going to remain pretty true through much of this season.
I like it.
Because he wants to play to everyone's strengths. He wants to spread the wealth around. And that's why I think Tatar, who has skill upside that I think is maybe more conventional, just needed a refresh because it just wasn't quite clicking yet with Wood and Colton. And then we see the immediate success with Drouin there, that creativity that he brings might be just what a Wood and a Colton need to step outside the box a little bit. Like, I noticed them striving for tip-in goals then after that moment, almost as if in search of the one that God called back. And not just that line, everybody. There was so much more traffic at the net front that I think it gave them a little bit of a boost, even though it got taken back. I know that was a really long-winded answer, but I think the takeaway is their strength as a team right now is they can afford to move guys around at will because they're very versatile and they each have different strengths, and there's a lot of new additions, so it's worth giving everybody a fair look.
And then to add to that, not because it was short, but I'm kidding. To the Blendnar, I'm kidding. No, but if you listen to him yesterday morning, he was talking about how they viewed, for example, Seattle as a slimy, greasy, and he's okay. Now we're going to put Val or Lecky, right? And then so tomorrow you got Carolina coming in. I don't know how the coaching staff of the Avs view Carolina. I mean, we might view it in a different way that they view it, but maybe he views them as a greasy team as well. I think they're going to lock it down tomorrow. By the way, Carolina, it's been a track meet every game they played in right now. But maybe does he go back to, I don't know. Maybe he goes back to the Val or Lecky on the first line then, because he knows it works. Like he said yesterday, he goes, I know that works. You know what I mean? But it's nice to see all the other combos. But I think I saw something yesterday in McKinnon when he, I know I'm not reading too much into it, but some people's reactions, and he looks at Tatar and he's like, hey, it's a 4-0 goal. Yep. It's not, and he points out, he's like, oh, I like that. You gave me the puck. I like that. I like him. You know what I mean? And so that's just a little thing I saw. I'm not saying that that's what he meant. I might be reading way too much into it, but like you just said, there's a lot of options, and it's awesome. It's a great problem.
To continue the blender analogy a little bit, when you look at that blender, it's got titanium blades that are McKinnon and Rantanen, and then I would even throw Nichushkin into that pile as well, and maybe even Lehkonen. And so you have these 4 pieces in your top 6 that it's, hey, you can rely on these guys. You can put these guys with anyone.
Right.
And then it's filling out those other pieces is where the blending really comes together. And, obviously you can separate Mac and Mikko. You can put them together. You can do a million different things.
Yeah.
But that's the unique properties of a blender, I guess. The answer to will it blend for the Avs is almost always yes because of those core pieces.
But it's a little different than January last year when it was really dry in that blender. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a lot of ingredients in there. It was dry. You were blending like bananas, and there was nothing else, right? I mean, it was
raw
like,
bananas.
Right,
Ingredients that didn't complement one another.
Just like,
right, because you ran out of that one thing, so you had to call up that other thing.
Yeah. And again, no offense to the guys. Some guys were not ready for that. They weren't ready. Just like you saw some guys yesterday in the Blackhawks not ready for that league. You know what I mean? Like some good. I'm not talking about Bedard. I'm talking about other guys. Yeah, exactly. Guys like that, which would benefit from having a Chevette in the minors and spending a little bit of time down there.
The kids these days want a Chevette.
Teammates.
Yeah.
And I'm old.
I did want to talk about this, though, and the potential for Colorado to improve. Meghan, you were talking about it. They feel like there's a lot of things they can improve on. Where do you start with Colorado at 4-0? How do you get better from here?
It's interesting because the way the games have been won have been a little bit different from each other. Talking about versatility again, they had to find slightly different ways to win, but it came down to the parts of their game that weren't at its best came down to execution. And I think that's a matter of timing, and players getting more acquainted with one another, because it would be things, honestly, too, like the Avs, other than Seattle, their greatest enemy in a game was themselves, and it was execution. When passes weren't connecting and reads just were not correct or not the best available option, that's who they were hurting. They were just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And it wasn't something they couldn't come back from, because the stars at the top of it all, who've been familiar with the way that Colorado wants to play, paper over it. So this isn't me coming down hard on them critically. It's an execution thing. But Seattle is an interesting game to refer back to, because they have figured out where Colorado's strength is as a team, and this is something they're going to want to be cognizant of, because the league is also going to be aware of this. They had a Seattle playoff series to also look at how this style of shutting Colorado down is pretty effective, at least now through that series and the Seattle game. Yeah. And it's stopping their speed in the middle of the ice. And so that is one area of Colorado that I think the way to improve upon that is it goes back to spreading the wealth around, because the way to slow down Colorado in the middle of the ice is to target its star players that lead with speed on the rush. And you usually then see players like McKinnon and Rantanen with 2 guys' eyes on them at any point. And that's where it's important then to have players like Logan O'Connor step up to the plate. And that's why execution, even relating it back to Seattle, is going to be important. And it's why it's important for them to get acquainted with each other, and probably also playing alongside different guys, because inevitably it's going to happen at different points this season too, out of necessity. And they just need to kind of get acquainted with that still. I think they're just going through some growing pains a little bit still. And I think it's going to only improve from here, though, because the stars at the top are still really carrying this team.
And they're able to, like you said, play differently too. Play greasy, and I do believe Seattle plays the Avs the best around the league. I'm talking about taking time and space, and it's one thing to say we're going to take time and space away from Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid. Yeah, good luck. I mean, it's not that easy. It's not that those guys are going to get their chances, but I do believe Seattle is the best team in the league to take that space away from the Avs. I do believe Vegas does a good job too. Yeah, they've always done a good job. Blue line to blue line, Braden McNabb, I love him. Blue line, he's outstanding. But I just like the fact that they're finding ways to win. You know what I mean? Whether it's goaltending, whether it's shorthanded goals. I love that. And every detail matters. And it is early in the season, and they're going to experiment with things. And I know Joey on the chat was asking about family sports. Every detail matters. And what they're doing at family sports, they're still practicing at family sports, but they're getting new boards. Should be ready, actually. I didn't even look at it today, but same boards as Pepsi Center. Ball Arena. I'm old. Remember, it's a habit.
They probably were Pepsi Center boards
at
one point.
Those are brand new boards, that give, the glass it's got that spring, and it's exactly the same boards as Ball Arena. Small detail, but when you're working on stuff, it does matter. It does matter when you're working on dump-ins or, all that kind of stuff. And just to feel. So I think everybody's pretty excited about the new boards. It comes down to it's a little detail, but it does matter. So the Avs are still at family sports, and obviously they're gone next week, and they were gone last week, but they took that week to put the new boards in and should be ready to go by today. So
it's actually good timing.
Yeah, exactly. I think they timed it that way, right? So
the quick little stop at home and then go again.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting. Eric, how much actual counterplay like that goes on in the regular season? I know, obviously, in a playoff series, you have 7 games a day against a team. You really get down into those micro. They like to do this. How do we stop that specifically? But you're rolling into a game against Carolina tomorrow. Is it very broad stroke, this is what they like to do, or are there certain things you're really trying to focus on stopping?
Well, I mean, obviously, those guys, coaching staff, it is a tough job in the NHL.
No, I believe
people
that,
think that, I'll be an assistant coach and push pucks in the corner. It's not. I mean, they get there early in the morning. They're late at night. They win, and then next thing you know, they're already focusing on the next opponent. And then you play 3 games in 4 nights, 3 different time zones, plane rides, hotel rooms. Like those guys with Brett, though, as in the video room, they do an unbelievable job, and they'll get that team ready. Especially against Eastern teams. You don't see them a lot.
Right.
So Carolina tomorrow, they'll get them ready. But the one thing I think will always come back with this coaching staff, which is, Bedsy and Ray Bennett and Nolan Pratt. Let's worry about what we do, right? It's what we do. When you're the best team in the league, for me, they are the best team in the league. You want to know the tendencies of the other team, but you also want to play your game. You don't want to change things where you're just so out there methodical thinking of something. You want to play your game. Let them adjust to you. Let them adjust to you, to how you play, and I think it's more important.
On that topic of letting them adjust to you, how do you prevent what has happened with Bowen Byram so far this season? I'm not saying he's been terrible, but dude's taken too many penalties. I think that's just a reality of his game through 4 games so far this year. How do you get him to take that next step of removing those penalties from his game this year?
Well, I mean, sometimes he might go another 15 games without even taking a penalty. You know what I mean? I agree with you. It's just been...
So you think it just naturally will progress?
I think it will, but... Okay. And plus, I think, he'll watch a little video. Maybe his game's off a little bit. You know what I mean? I heard a coach this morning, who was it? I don't remember. Again, it was early this morning.
You didn't
the radio.
Much.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't
much,
a coach in town here. I'm talking about around the league, and saying like, I mean, it's only 4 games, and a lot of our guys haven't found their games yet. So Bo might fall in that category so far. Maybe he hasn't found his game yet through 4 games. Do I believe in Bo Byram? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to be outstanding? Yeah, and he might go another 15, 16 games without taking a penalty. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes he knows he took a couple bad ones, and usually doesn't. You know what I mean? So it's not something that's of his character. But, the good thing is it didn't cost the Avs anything, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Obviously, they're 4-0.
That's
so
right. And that's what you do. You pick up each other. You know what I mean? And maybe it's talked in the room sometimes. Hey, Meghan, stop taking penalties. You know what I mean? And then we're going to kill it, but you're going to stop, right? And the pressure from your peers sometimes is a little bit even more stronger than the pressure from your coaches. And I'm talking about peer pressure is very, very big in a locker room, and especially in a championship culture. But I do believe Bo's going to be fine. He just needs to, dig deeper a little bit on this game right now. And then all of a sudden you make a big play and you feel good about yourself. Yeah. And it's like a goal scorer that doesn't score. It's just like, oh, my God. You saw Tage Thompson last night in Buffalo. Hasn't scored a goal. Then he scores. And you think it's like, he's like, you know what I mean? Like the pressure is high when you get paid a lot of money. You get paid to produce. So for guys like that, it's very important. When it comes down to game plan or Bo and everything, you can do all you want. You can be all prepared. But if the execution isn't there, it's tough. You know what I mean? So execution is huge. You could have the best game plan in the world and you're all ready for the game and you go out there and you can't make a 2-foot pass. Then everything goes down the drain, right? And that's where I think the Avalanche have been awesome is they're one of the best teams at executing, not only game plans, but plays on the ice. Simple plays.
Yep.
Sometimes with Byram, I wonder if looking ahead at the full runway of a potential healthy season where he can play 82 or close to it, if there's some pressure that he's putting on himself that has sort of, he needs to just get right a little bit mentally. Because I even think the penalties, some of which I would probably scrub from his record because I think the calls were a little bit flimsy. And so I think that is also a recency bias. Like, I don't think this is going to be Bo Byram all year. I think that he's also shaking off a little bit of rust and trying to step into the player that he knows he is, but needs to realize in actuality now, because we haven't even seen the strengths of his game yet. And I think that the penalties have sort of taken from that. It's almost acted as a distraction, and he might even be gripping his stick a little too tightly because he's in this cycle of wanting to be that guy right now. Yep. And it's just a matter, I think, of reevaluating what that pressure should look like, channeling it into something productive, and just, because you look at how the way some of the penalties happen, and they're little things that he could clean up, but it's also almost out of desperation, right? Like getting the stick out a little bit too much. And those are the kinds of things that he can clean up. He's a smart player, and the offensive side of his game, that is his strength, we haven't even seen it yet. So I think it's still to come, and he just needs to get right a little bit mentally. And I think that he can. I'm not worried about it.
Is there a world, and look, I get it. No NHL team ever wants to take a penalty. You never want to put yourself shorthanded. But is there a world where Colorado, perfect on the penalty kill and then some so far through this season, when someone does take a penalty, do they feel pretty good about it?
I would want to ask Georgiev that question.
He's the one doing the heavy lifting.
He really has, and they've been so good in front of him, but like not, there have been some penalty kills though that Georgiev was the reason it remained successful. So I have to imagine it's good for their confidence though, and that's something that just builds after a successful penalty kill into the other, but I don't know if they're happy. Maybe if you're Logan O'Connor and you score 2 short-handed goals, you're like, now's my time.
Ready for the next PK. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about confidence. You're right. And then it's also the timing of the penalties. Sometimes it's just not the right timing. Like you just spend 2 minutes in your own end. There's no TV timeout. And then you're the goalie. You're tired. You're like, you don't have time to breathe. And the next thing you know, it's 5-on-4 and it's a shooting power play, and then you're like, oh my God, and then the puck's in your net, right? The timing of penalties sometimes is what dictates, what's going to happen if the puck goes in or not.
Okay. On that note, if you want to take less penalties, maybe take a book out of soccer's book and learn how to dive and get calls. Look, they call it dive grass for a reason. That's all I'm saying. But if you actually enjoy soccer like we do here at DNVR, you want to go check out our Rapids show. As their season is, I think they played last night, right? So it's officially over now. But you can check out our Rapids post-game and post-season show coming from Mitch, Yaya, and Dwayne. They do great work over there through what was a tough season for the Rapids. But there's a lot of awesome storylines going on for real right now in the MLS. Obviously, Messi has been a great storyline that everyone has been talking about. So if you want to hear more about that side of Denver sports, highly recommend you guys go check out the Rapid Show right here on this YouTube channel. You can get access to it. So be sure to like and subscribe here. And then we're also brought to you by MSU Denver. You can turn your goals into greatness at MSU Denver by taking courses both online and in person. However you want to structure your schedule, you can do that with MSU with over 90 plus majors. Or you can even kind of create your own curriculum if you're looking for something specific. So get in on it. I know Tiff went there for a while, did her degree out there.
I did.
Was it a fun time, Tiff?
Yeah, I liked it. I actually liked it a lot more than like standard university. So I did the whole thing. I did regular university for a year. Wasn't really for me. Did community college. Hated that it felt exactly like high school. And then I took a little bit of time off, and yeah, I went to MSU. It was nice to just walk around and be downtown and kind of just always be in the thick of it at all times.
There you go. So jump on it. You can start or restart your college education over at MSU Denver. Spring 2024 applications are currently open. Get in on it. Get in on those 90-plus majors and create your own career and turn your dreams into a reality. With MSU Denver, head over to msudenver.edu to learn more today. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I don't want to come across as arrogant or lording over the Central Division, but we're 4 games into the season, and Colorado has already created a 4-point gap on some of the teams in the Central. I'm curious where you guys give the credit here. Is this a, hey, the Avs are this good and they're going to dominate this division, or is this a, hey, the Central Division isn't that good this year?
Do you want it?
I don't.
I mean, I'll go first. I'll let you think. I do a little bit of both, right? I do believe the Avs are that good. I especially now after some real games, right? You know what I mean? On a tough road trip, so to speak. I mean, whatever. Nice road trip.
Yeah.
Coming home, you know what you have right now. If you're the coaching staff, and I know we talked about tinkering with lines, but you know what's at your disposition. So you know the players by now.
Sure.
You know your strengths. You know your weaknesses, which there aren't a lot. And then also you know the strength of your division. So which I believe is, like you said, average at best, right? I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. We saw Chicago last night. That's listen, it's not downplaying the Blackhawks, but I mean, they got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
Right, as we saw. So I think it's a little bit of both, and I think that's what's going to make the Avs so successful. But I think they're so fun, and I think they're so confident. So whether they play a team in the division or the Vegas Golden Knights, NHL champs last year, I think you're going to see the Avalanche when the puck drops that they can play any way you want them to play. I mean, you want to play them tough, they'll play you tough. You want to play them on a track meet, they'll play you on a track meet. Even though Bernard doesn't like it, and he said it again yesterday.
They will do it.
But they will do it. I mean, you got to hold the horses, you know what I mean? But they got the horses to do it, and I'd put my money on them, you know what I mean, on a track meet. But it's not always the best for coaches. They have ulcers, when it comes down to games like that. But I do believe they're so well built. They've done a masterful job, and I think the hungry factor will put them over the top in that division. And of course, Dallas is a good team, but it's gonna be interesting to see. But it's a little mixture of both. From your question, the division.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like in looking at the teams that we expect to be near the bottom, they're not in that window. It's kind of to expectation. Like, I don't think they're falling below it in some way. The one that surprises me most, just in the hot start, in a hot take of the starts, is Winnipeg. And I think they're going to be better than they are right now, but I don't know how much better. And I'm a little interested to see how that plays out. And then the other factor of it being such a long season and how injury can completely change the trajectory of any one of these
Colorado
teams.
should know that as well as anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes me just feel like I can't really boldly say anything other than Colorado and Dallas at the top is true. That is real. It's real for a reason. They're going to separate, too, from these other teams. It's not because some of them are, I don't like to say bad. They're building.
They're not in their window, as you put it.
No. I will say St. Louis is bad, though.
Oh, man, they got dominated by Arizona the other night. It was bad. Yeah, that team might not be any good. The other part of this that I kind of wanted to talk about, Colorado, one of 4 teams remaining that is undefeated. At what point does that start to become a thing? 4 games being undefeated is cool, but it's not like a streak of real proportions
Like
at that point.
18?
Yeah, right. Like 7, if you're at 7 undefeated games, is that the storyline every single night? At 10, at what point does that kind of take over the story of the season as a whole?
What was their home record? Was it like 18 consecutive wins? Is
Yeah,
that
it
what
was
I'm
some-
getting
it
that
was some
number from?
outrageous
It
number,
was,
yeah.
That's when I
2 years ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're
Something like
they're
that.
14-0 on the road in their last 14 road games, which they will get a chance to improve on, not against Carolina, but afterward. Do the players even, I mean, obviously they want to win every night, but when you have that media conversation, the media pressure about something like that, at what point do the players have to acknowledge, hey, this is a streak that's out of the norm?
Not at 4, that's for sure.
Well, I'm saying, what would it take
Exactly.
to get there?
I know. I don't know. I think you get to 10. I think it's a good feat.
Double
You know, it's like,
digits.
all right. You know,
okay.
maybe we got
All
a
right.
good. Hey, we are having a good start right now. You know, right until then, it's business-like approach. It's like what McKinnon said. Oh, it's just 4 games in, and I think coaches will tell you that too. Every game takes a life of its own, and every road trip takes a life of its own, and you know, so you just take it and you break it down. But I do believe once you get into double digits, you're like, oh, okay, maybe we got something special here. You know what I mean? Like, all right, this is a fun streak. And then, and in those streaks, usually you always look back, and there's some games that you're like, oh, we should have lost that game.
yeah.
We got bailed out by our goalie, or, you know, oh, this bad call saved us, or, you know, a good call on them. But things like that. So I think during a streak, we're streaking. During a streak, there's always something that makes you look back. But for the most part, if you've won 10 in a row, you've done pretty good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think
Takes
that,
a lot of good things to win 4 in a row, let
that's my
alone
point.
10. Yeah.
Exactly. So it is a tough league. The margin of error is really small. The difference between winning and losing can be very thin at times. And I always compare it to blackjack. Like, you know, I don't know if you play blackjack, but
I love blackjack.
sometimes you're out there and it's like you got a nice double down against a 6, and then you just can't win any. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's teams that, you know, they just can't win games, and every time there's a turnover, puck's in the back of their net.
Yeah, just goes
and then
against
there's
them.
times that you get away from stuff, and you got I don't know, you got a 6 against a 10, and you end up with 21, and you beat the dealer or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
You know, so that's why I always say blackjack. You know, it's you're doing the right things. You
can only control
you
so
can only
much, though.
control so
Yeah.
much, and sometimes the outcome's not there, and you can't get. And I think that's where veteran leadership, not just as players but as coaches, you know what I mean, that you know, sure you win 7, 8 out in a row, and then you lose 1, and then all hell breaks loose. It's you lose track of. You just lost 1 out of 9.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're going to finish first in the NHL. So let's just relax here. Let's breathe a little bit.
You're the best
You know what I
hockey
mean? Like,
team of all time. If
that's
you
right.
win 9
That's
out
my
of 10.
point. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, really? You know what I mean? So I think it comes from leadership at the top, you know, from the Avs management to the coaches to the players. And I do believe all 3 are in sync, and that's what's going to make them really dangerous again this year.
I think with the Avs too, they almost have to up the ante of like how they measure their wins, because I think it's such an expectation that they're going to win.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's a standard, and it's almost an unshakable one. Like, even if they were to lose a game, I don't think it would bother them. I think they would find it to feel weird to them and need to immediately address that. Like, oh, that did not feel natural.
Don't like that.
Right. I need to get back to myself again, because that's just their standard. Their natural state of being is winning. And so that's why I think, like Eric talked about, how they win is how they start to add the value to the win. Like, was Georgiev a net, or did Prosvetov get a start and win that game for us?
Yeah.
That would, I think, be something they get excited around, that win specifically. Was McKinnon in the lineup? Maybe they had to do a night without him for some reason, and they win. They pull it out.
That's
and
right.
guys like Miles Wood finally score, because you saw how excited everybody on the ice was when they thought that happened.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that I think are going to make the wins carry more weight for the team, because it's just so natural to them as it is.
Oh, McKinnon scored 2 goals again. All right, I guess we win. It's just that
Right?
easy.
It's that slow song in the locker room. I'm kidding. It's not that slow.
I hope it's like super slow. Slow dancing in the locker room after
They're
he
slow
wins.
dancing.
Yeah, let's go. Come on.
Party in the
that's my
USA.
speed.
I think it should be party in the USA.
You did mention Colorado Eagles season opener, or not season opener, home opener tonight. First of all, you can say whatever you want about it, but I also am curious, has a call-up order emerged in your mind?
No.
Okay.
not
I didn't
yet.
think so,
It's
but
a little built from camp at this point,
Sure.
but nothing from the first 2 games
yeah.
added any new information. Players look different on that stage in the American League level. The pace of play, I really like Jason Polin
Yep.
preseason and Vegas showcase, the little bit that we saw of him. But then on the American League stage, I feel like he still needs to find a way to be really visible there.
Sure.
And that's just through 2 games. I'm not going to
Long
be
way to
dramatic
go, of
and
course.
say that he's disappeared. Same for Oscar Olesen. I think that's kind of the big thing I'm looking for in tonight when they're in front of their home crowd is how some of these players, Pavel included, who really missed a lot of opportunity to show what he was made of in preseason.
Yep.
This is his opportunity to do it because that his word that gets back to Bednar, right?
Yep.
It's a lot of need for these guys to separate themselves from their peers, and that's what I need to see to really help me establish that pecking order. Because if I
Fair
was
enough.
forced to do it now, it would be the vets. I would
Yep.
say Peter Holland, I have some trust in. Brad Hunt, I have some trust in.
Yep.
But the young guys haven't done enough yet, and it's 2 games in for me to put them at the top of the depth chart.
But the biggest thing you can do at the American League level when you're young or a rookie or whatever you want to call that, and it's the toughest thing to do, is consistency.
Yeah.
It's a big word, and it's the toughest thing to do. And you could say, wow, let's say take this week. They had their first couple games on the road last weekend, then they have a couple good practices, and all of a sudden, whoop, whoop, there's a little dip in your practice, and because you're not used to, full throttle every day, full, you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, that's what you have to learn, because you got to remember, you want to be the first call up. What have you done for me lately? They don't care that you had a
Yeah.
great week last week.
It's absolutely
Right
true.
now, it's
Yeah.
what have you done for me lately? And if it's a practice, then it's a practice. And this is by the way, we have Meghan and Meghan and Rudo, not the opposite, but they're 2 left wingers and left shots, and they like to kill penalties. Well, guess what? Who's had the best practices the last couple of days? Because that's what you have to look, back to. They don't care what you did 3 weeks ago. They don't care what you did in camp. Of course, you leave an impression in camp, but
Definitely
you have
not
to show.
me. It was always a bad
It wasn't
practicer.
you. It was Meghan for sure. But you know what I mean? So you have to show on a daily basis that you're getting there consistently.
Right.
Like with your play, your effort, your preparation. And it's hard. It's hard to be a pro. Like I said earlier, I was messing around with the Chevettes, but that's the fun part of the game. But you know what I mean? Like it's tough because you're in the minors, you're not, and you want to be at the top. And the easiest thing to do is to look at those games last night and go, oh, I'm just as good as this guy, or I'm just as good as that guy, right? You can't worry about that. You can control only the controllables. And what you can do is, am I the hardest working guy at practice today for the Eagles? Am I the most consistent guy? And that's what you can do. And that's what you need to do. Once the guys, it gets in their heads, all of a sudden your play shows it. Next thing you know, you're a call-up and you never look back. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be a call-up for a day or 2, for a
Yeah.
game.
Compared
It's
to
another-
sticking, yeah.
That's right.
The
Sticking is
cup
a
of
big
coffee.
word. That's
I
right.
love to hear. You
The
don't
old
want to just
cup
go
of-
up for
yeah.
a cup of coffee. I want to acknowledge too, Holland is on an AHL contract, so he wouldn't actually get called up. If Chris Wagner were healthy, Riley Tufte is there.
Yep.
I think that's Tufte didn't actually get to be in those games,
Yeah.
but that would probably be who's there. But Caleb Jones comes up in the chat, and I wanted to talk about him because he is new to Colorado. He's new then to the systems and the way in which they like to play.
Yep.
And I thought he had a good weekend, a good opening weekend. And that is jumping in newly and learning some of these things newly. I think that even just the flashes of the way I see he likes to play would complement the way that Eagles or Avs like to play. So I'm high on Jones, and I think it's just a matter of time before he gets a look. Like he would, because of his NHL experience, I do view him as a little more pro-ready than some of the younger guys. He's a young guy himself, so he's not like in the vet category the same way Brad Hunt is, but I do think he'll get NHL games at some point. And I'm excited to see him just get more comfortable with Colorado.
100% you're going to see him. 100%.
But I think
It's a long year.
A super interesting first test for Schneekloth there with Caleb Jones a little bit as
Sure.
head coach of that team now. in kind of the Avalanche silo of systems and play. Pretty much everyone else on that team was at training camp, has gone through the paces of what it's like to play for the Avalanche systems. With Jones, that's hey, I got to teach this guy on the fly.
Yeah, and it's such a natural fit. So, like, a compliment to Jones being able to adapt quickly, and that will be proven over time, too.
Of course.
But also, it'll be a real testament to Schneekloth and Tim Branham up there, working with him directly and getting him bought in the way that Colorado likes to play, because there's a specific type of defenseman that they like, and Caleb Jones can fit that bill, but he could be even more effective, too, I think, with some of the teaching that happens when players come to Colorado, young or old. There have been defensemen who've gone on to get in NHL games, even the journeyman types, that spend a little bit of time in Loveland. And I'm excited to see that.
And I'm going to go with Billy on the chat there. I agree. I'm old school. I think nothing's given to you. And you gotta fight for everything. You gotta earn everything. And once you do that, then you force management to make decisions. We talked about that in Vegas. I don't care if you're Caleb, where he's a bit older, or I don't care if you're an 18-year-old. Yeah. You force management to. At the end of the day, you're controlling your own destiny. Your play will dictate where you end up. Nobody's trying to screw you or put you aside. Nobody's. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Let's just not play. Oh, he's playing too good. Let's put him aside. Come on, that doesn't work, right? I mean, coaches want to win.
Yep.
Oh, Kelly Jones playing too good right now. I'm not going to play him. I'd rather get fired. You know, I got a wife and kids, and I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, but think about it, right? I mean, I'm old school, and you work for your opportunity, and when your opportunity comes, you jump on it.
Yep.
And I do believe Caleb will get here somewhere, somehow, right? At some point. And there's a reason you end up in the minors too. There's a lot of good players in the NHL, and maybe he didn't do something that was right last year or whatever. You know what I mean? Like maybe his play wasn't consistent enough, and then you have to regroup and you have to figure it out. And at some point, you make the teams make decisions.
Well, if someone is playing bumper cars with your Chevette, call Bacchus and Shanker today. 222-2222, or go to coloradolaw.net. If you have been injured and it's not your fault, whether that's a car accident, even if it was a rideshare thing, maybe on a scooters downtown, or even if it was a work accident, Bacchus and Shanker has your back. When you call the 2 number, you can get a free consultation. They think you have a case. You don't pay anything up front. They don't get paid until you get paid when you win your case, which if they take on your case, you're going to win your case. They've won over $1 billion for their clients over the last 25 years, so they're very good at winning court cases. Go check them out. Go to coloradolaw.net. Get your free consultation with the 2 number. Get over with Bacchus and Shanker, because Bacchus and Shanker wins. And then we're also brought to you by the folks over at, I think it's Breckenridge. I can't unlock my phone.
It's a clap.
Who?
Remember that?
Oh, I was right. Sometimes
You're too
lucky.
young.
Look, go get yourself some Breck Brew, whether it's the Broncos Country of Sadness or the Avalanche Amber of Happiness, or, you can get their Oktoberfest. You can get some of their fall beers. They got all sorts of flavors, dozens of them, in fact. Also, don't do it. Do not release the Christmas beer until after Halloween, all right? I see some of you guys putting up your Christmas lights already. That's illegal.
I
cannot put them up before Halloween. Get your Breck Brew, though. Use the Breck Beer Locator online to find them at a local liquor store. They're available in all 50 states. Go to breckbrew.com to find it near you. All right, we have one super chat, and then we can get into some final thoughts.
And mine's Thanksgiving, by the way. After Thanksgiving.
I'm here with that. I was trying to be a little bit generous. It's got to be at least after Halloween. $5 from Melanie says, great start to the season. Thanks for the amazing content. You all rock. Go Avalanche. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Melanie. Much appreciated. Always hanging out in the chat. Okay. Anything you guys want to add? Any final thoughts you guys wanted to touch on?
I'm sure you've appreciated how good Georgiev has been.
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of Georgiev love on the pod while you were at practices
Just
and things.
Excited for the season ahead for him. I thought he had a good body of work last year, but it just seems like he's taken another step forward. And consistency, it's a big word.
It is.
It's going to be important for Georgiev too, and the workload. It was already pretty heavy last year, so I'm anticipating pretty heavy again this year.
Yep.
It's going to all come down to that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I just think he's looked so sharp, and even if he were to have a bad game, it wouldn't change how I feel about him right now.
Oh, yeah. One bad game, no.
No.
I think there's a pretty strong argument he may already be the third best goalie in Avs history. And by the end of the season, there could be an argument that he's the second best. Probably not going to catch that top guy, but
Not. Hey, you never know. Right?
well, if he does, then in a decade, we're going
Wow.
to be pretty happy folks
Yeah.
here at DNVR, I think. But yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, he has. And
Okay.
then tomorrow should be fun.
Yeah.
Again, I think,
Yeah.
today an optional skate, right?
Yeah.
So some guys, you feel the right to, take care of your body and not get on the ice. And that's everybody's different. And
Well, you got to find that rest where you can.
That's
when
it.
You're at home for 3 days of the first 3 weeks of the season.
And I'm
you
sure the
know.
message was, if you want to skate. Of course, if you're a scratch, you got to skate. you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well.
But hey, if it's whatever's going to make you feel the best tomorrow, you know
Yep.
what your body needs, and if you need, and again, that's where Joe Sakic was absolutely crazy, and he'd be heavy, friggin' deadlifts and squats on morning skates. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He didn't go on the ice for morning skate, but he would do heavy, and I say heavy squats, and everybody was like, "What? You're supposed to conserve your energy." No, that's what made him feel good. So.
If it works,
But I
it
want to
works.
wish Meghan the best of luck on the highway going up to Loveland right now. Coming up, it's 3:20. It's going to be outstanding. There won't be anybody on the highway going up I-25 to Loveland
You wish.
tonight. Yeah,
Got a
it's going to be a
toll
very
pass.
easy ride.
Oh, you got the toll
I
pass?
have
There
the
you
toll pass.
go. There you go.
The 470 drive is way better than 25. Just
I
throwing
mean,
it out there.
I go back door all the time. 'cause-
I only just discovered this going up for the grit game,
Yeah.
and I loved it. I was like, "This feels really close to me. Should I be coming more? I shouldn't, but I loved it."
My mother-in-law does it all the time. I've been like, so many years and 25 years married, but I'm sure she's been coming down to Denver for longer than that. I don't know how to do it. Like, oh my God. Sometimes you're just like,
Yep.
whoa, 3-4 times a week. You're like, you are nuts.
All right. We'll get out of here before the rush hour traffic. We appreciate all y'all hanging out with us today. I don't know. Some people might consider tomorrow the first real test for Colorado against Carolina, even though they've been kind of bad to start the year. Either way, we will be live, pregame, watch along, postgame, all that goodness for you tomorrow. So tune in. We appreciate y'all. Check out thednvr.com, all of Megan's stuff, all of AJ's stuff, all of Eric's stuff here on the pod too. So like, subscribe, do all that. We love you. Goodbye.